the portable potties. We had sometimes create our own potties, wash with the water, things like that. It was very primitive. And my time during that time, at the time, I didn't realize what was now military sexual trauma. Now I'm going to read the definition by the Veterans Affairs. It's a term that they refer to sexual assault, repeated threatening sexual harassment that occurs while a veteran was in the military. It also includes sexual activity when someone is involved against his or her will. He or she may have been pressured into, it's involved against his will, sexual activities, threats for negative consequences, them telling you to give you favors if you be sexually cooperative, inappropriate touching, catcalling, all that kind of stuff. It was very difficult to define it at the time because I just thought that's what guys do when you don't have many girls. Because at our branch, it was, we had other units that were coming into, we calculated up to like 500 guys, and it was still like 15, 20 girls. So at the time, all that harassment, all the mistreatment, my leaders, the way they talked to me, they didn't protect me. I had 2 other friends that were raped and sexually assaulted over there, but they did nothing. There was no system of reporting. If you told, I got harder details. If I said something, I was ostracized. If I, I really didn't have that support. So when I spoke up about it, I began to, what I called at the time, I didn't know I had an invisible wound. They actually tore something in my soul, my value. I began to lose like my real value of being a soldier. I really wanted to be a part of this, but after the gross mistreatment of being a woman, I didn't feel really valued. I didn't feel respected. I felt like I was a body doing a job. Anything else, it didn't matter. And during that time, they didn't have a lot of high-tech medical services and things like that. You didn't have IG available. You didn't have, if you did go talk to someone, you had the chain of command. So those things that hindered me from reporting my sexual assault and other friends, and there was not a justice system in place. What they do have now, they have changed a whole lot in the last few years as far as MST. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted in the military, 38 men are sexually assaulted every day in the military. And those things happened to me at that time, and I didn't realize what was going on. And also at the time, we had we were exposed to toxins and chemicals. The Gulf War illness now it's affected over 250,000 veterans. It was 700,000 that was activated, but the Gulf War illness came from a multi-symptom illness. We received anthrax vaccine shots unknowingly. Didn't know that. Got shot up with anthrax. Sarin gas, depleted uranium, pesticides, you name it. It was a toxic environment. We called it the dirty sandbox when we was over in Saudi Arabia. And those things affected and changed our DNA. Our myosheath on our cells were destroyed. So imagine when your brain is not fully developed until you're about 25, 20, 21 years old, you got all this toxic and poisoning chemicals in your body too. And you're sick. We were sick. Everybody in my unit was sick. Rashes breaking out, sick, and no one could do anything about it. We just kind of suffered through it. So after I served in the Gulf War, I came home 8 months later. And that experience was so traumatic that I didn't even know who I was anymore. They took something from me. I really became this person where I was outgoing, fashion designer, want to do all these things, and I became this isolated, ostracized person. I was distant from my family. I have 7 sisters. I lived in a women's house with 8 women. And I moved out when I was 17, right when I got done with high school. I was like, I am out of here. I want to be my own boss. And so I really was always sociable, really liked people, but I became this isolated person, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I went back to what I thought was normal, and that's going back to school, the typical things, but I was different, and I couldn't really describe that. And when I asked for help, they looked at me and said, nothing's wrong with you. You're not missing a limb. Most of the time when you think about combat or veterans, you're like, well, you didn't get shot. Your truck didn't blow up. What's wrong with you? I was like, I can't really explain it. So I had this real difficult time where I changed. I became having panic attacks. I was depressed. I was suicide. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. We don't talk about that issue because it's kind of like a negative stigma at the time, especially in the 90s and 2000s. You don't admit you're depressed. I just had a bad day. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to go party it off or whatever. Or I'm going to relax. I'm going to pray. But I couldn't shake it. I couldn't stop crying all the time. I was depressed. But I was at the military. You know how it is. You always got to be strong. You pick yourself up by the bootstraps. What could possibly be wrong with you? You came back. So I had this really false reality of what strength was. And really I was this broken person. I was struggling. And I was like two sides. I wanted this flashbacks, the paranoia, the triggers. I didn't even know what this was. I didn't know what depression was. I just knew how I felt. So life was really frustrating. I struggled through. I went to school and got my degree in psychology, and then I went to work as a social worker. So my coping skill was avoidance. I became a workaholic. I did everything for everybody and everybody else. I was serving at church, in the community with youth. I started a nonprofit organization. I just worked because I didn't know what to deal with. It was so uncomfortable. I didn't know how to handle this because I didn't have the help when I asked for it, and then I didn't have the tools. And I came to this point where I was like, who cares? Nobody cares. Because when I told them, I would be looked at really strange. Like, you can't possibly be dealing with all of this. What's going on with you, And some people that are Christians are strong Christians from the, I'm talking about those holy rollers. When you pray and, speak in tongues, all those people, they would tell me I was a demon, So I had to get oil on my head and get it cast out. And I was like, it's not leaving, so I didn't get it, So when I asked for help, it was like, just demonic and praying, but it just never went away. So actually I had developed PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder can come from any traumatic event. It can come from grief or loss. You can have an accident, experience sexual trauma. It's a variety of things that can cause PTSD. But the sooner you get help, the better. But mine was long-term because I didn't get help. And what happened was my faith changed. Because I knew one thing. I was born and raised in the church. Can I tell you about me a little bit? My mother instilled in me prayer. And one thing about God was faith. I said, now, if God allowed me to go through this, if you send me over to Saudi Arabia and live in that environment for all these years, you have a plan for that. I just believed that no matter what this pain I was going through, it had a purpose. So I would just pray. I became like this intercessor prayer warrior. Everybody knows me for that. And you'll kind of see, I'm a prayer warrior because I believe God had an answer. So I would cry out to God and I said, nobody's hearing me but you. You were there the whole time. You see the injustice. Nobody believed me. No one believed me, the stories I would tell them, the stuff I went through in the military. And I talk about it in my book because it took me about 3 years to write it because it was therapeutic, because I figured after a while, if you didn't want to hear it, I was going to write it. I had to get this out of me. I had to get it out. You can stop reading, or open the book, but I had to get it out because I felt like my voice, I was just muffled with all this confusion and I'm not sure about my purpose and really trying to look for a new pathway. And that's when I came into this, about the ideology of being a voice and not an echo. A lot of times you look at celebrities, you look at people and everybody wants to be like Beyonce. I don't, but, you have different people that really idolize these people's life and like, oh my God, I would love to be her. But really the thing is that there's over 7 billion people in this world. And there's only one you. One you. God made only you. It's only one. A snowflake, it's not even the same. So when I started to realize that my life experience was so different and I couldn't connect, that I had to start speaking from my place of strength and my place of my voice. My voice was significant. I started realizing that every time I talked, it was like, even though I was different, because I was speaking from a different position. So being an echo is kind of like carbon copy a person, kind of, as you could say, you rhetoric someone and you try to be like them and fit in. But being that unique person, that strong women are often perceived as cold and mean. Anybody get that as a strong woman? They automatically look at you and look at her and, you check her out and assume all this stuff about you. And think about it, simply because we refuse to be disrespected, mistreated, and taken for granted. So the strength I had in me, I had to set boundaries. I didn't know how to set boundaries. In the military, you don't get to choose what unit you're assigned to. You don't have any control. But when I became a civilian, I was like, wait a minute, I can make some different decisions here. So the strength I had within me, I decided to break the silence on PTSD. Nobody was talking about this. I was telling people, and they're like, oh my God, you should go on Oprah. I was like, well, I'm not really interested in it. I'm interested in empowering each person with my story. I'm not really interested in celebrity status. I'm interested in changing lives. I believe every person you talk to or come across is a divine purpose for that. So I talk about, I'm just sharing this in my book, it's more details, it's just general, but I talk about breaking the silence and no longer remain in silence. This is power right here. It's no longer be silent. You can blog, you can do audios, you can do videos, you know, but every time you speak, every time you share your story, you're giving a part of yourself to the other people. And I realized this, to be yourself means that you're beautiful. And when I started accepting myself, my brokenness, you know, I believe you can't help anybody if you got it all together. If I sit up here and just talk about all my degrees and what I've experienced and how many people I know and, you know, where I came over 2,000 miles here because of Melissa. That's why I'm here. Because of how she respected me and I respected her and how she just embraced me. That's why I came. I didn't know all you beautiful women was going to be here today. But when she opened the door, I was like, sure, I'll come to California. I've never been there. I always wanted to. I might stay. You know, I hear all kinds of good stuff about California. So, you know, just accepting myself. And when I started accepting myself, I created a change in my life. People started liking me for me. Because I like me. So once you start liking yourself, I think that's what shifts everything. When you start empowering yourself and taking care of yourself. You know, and the truth, don't let the truth offend you. Let it change you. And when I started seeking out help, therapeutic help, and talking to people, they started telling me some stuff I didn't want to hear. You know, that's one thing about truth. Truth has a tendency to put things right in your face. But I think the best thing is to be true to yourself. Everything starts with you. And that's what I didn't realize was I was always looking outside of myself, and everything I needed was already within. And I didn't realize that because what happens in society, they kind of train you, hey, you know, you got to know this person, you got to do this, you got to talk to Bob, you got to talk to Jim, and then you'll get the door open. You can create your own door. You create your own platform. So truth is good. Truth is a place of embracing truth causes you to stand from a place of strength. Because I'm standing here as a transparent woman. You know, I'm standing here. I could not talk like this years ago because it was so painful. You know, not having something just like, I would say, capped down for 20 years. Every time it come up, you push it away or you do something different. You know, that's what I did. I avoided it. I ran from it. It chased me. So when I stood around and I turned around and I said, you know what? You know, this is going to stop today. So I decided that I wanted my life different. And I began to seek out people that were better than me, in a sense, were healthier or could give me something. A lot of times, Misery Love Company, and had to really change that. The last, I would say, year, I released my book in 2014. Nobody even knew I was working on it. No one knew. Why would I tell somebody that? I carried all this for years, all this pain and struggle, and my books covers from, you know, the time in the military, the family problems, the ostracism, you know, the broken relationships, married, divorce, the single parenting, you name it all, I cover it all. I'm pretty raw and transparent. And so that really changed me when I started to realize that, you know what, things have to change because I want it to. So you really have that power. Everything is within you, everything you need with you. You have to tap into that, and then you have to ask for help. You talked about that. And I was one of those things like, I don't need your help. Because I don't know what you're going to do with me. Because I had trust issues. And that's one thing I'm finding, like in Michigan, a lot of women veterans, and it's a lot of women here, we have trust issues. You know, we're not sure about you, especially if you experience some trauma and we don't know your history. We kind of look at you and say, well, is this a safe relationship or not? So bringing trust in myself first, you know, loving myself and bringing myself to the truth. And that's when I begin to change. I talk about this. Always protect your spirit from negativity. I don't do drama. I'm not a drama king. You bring it, I'm out the door. You know, so, hey, no drama. Yes. I believe as women, we need to empower each other. When you see other women, no matter what their background is, their ethnic or whatever, you are beautiful. So, and I think you need to speak life to each other in that way and give that life to each other. I always used to protect myself from negativity. Having 7 sisters, as we know, the gossip, little green-eyed, ugly monster kind of, you know, travels around in that circle. And I used to experience that, and I was like, why is this always happening to me? Because I wasn't setting the boundaries. I wasn't changing things. I didn't redirect the energy. I used to receive it. But then I started realizing I don't deserve this. I don't need this. I want a different life. So that's when I reached back out to the VA. I was so angry at the VA. I was so angry because when I came for help, they said they couldn't find my records. Oh yeah, I said, I bet if you want to ship me over back over there, you find some records, you know. Oh yeah, you'll make some. Sure will. And I was just like, what? You know, I couldn't believe it, so they denied me, and I was angry. Like, how dare you? I served, you know. I went through all this stuff and struggled, and I come back just for help. All I want is mental health and medical treatment and what I deserve. So I got strong enough because I cared and loved myself enough, and I knew that no one else, and I can say this about the VA, I went through 3 different VAs. I will fire my doctor instantly. If I will do that. I would just, okay, thank you, and go give me another one. That's one thing I realized I didn't do. I didn't have to take that. So I went through some VAs, and because of the stereotypes and because of, you know, what's possibly could be from PTSD, guys get that. You know, it was not a girl thing. It was not an MST thing. You know, and I was like, well, I didn't really know what it was. So I left the Battle Creek VA. I went to the Detroit VA. And that was a whole nother world. It's 2 different types of cultures in Michigan. We're kind of different. The West and the East Side, I'm sure, like here. I'm not sure what it is in particular, but it's different. It's different. And the way I was treated, I didn't feel honored. I didn't feel like, you know, no one ever thanked me for my service. You know, they automatically assume when they see my license plate that I'm driving a guy's car, you know, and I was like, no, I served. I never felt honored, and I was always looking for them to do that for me. So I reached back out to the VA, and I said, look, I cannot take it anymore. I need your help. And I actually entered into the homeless veteran program. I finally found a psychiatrist. It was a private psychiatrist that I trusted. I didn't trust the VA. I thought they all were the devil. Uncle Sam turned his back on me. So she actually helped me. She took me off my job as a social worker. I burned myself out so bad I could barely even function. I was so crispy. And I really was. I was fried. You know, I was like, where are my glasses? Oh, my God, you know. So I was really done, and I was like, I can't stop. The one thing about being a service person, we love to give. We love to serve. We like to help other people. But you have to empower yourself first. She said, you cannot do this. I'm taking you off. I said, okay, and I never went back. That was 2008. And during that time, I went through a divorce, lost my house, van got repossessed, you name it, went through. Got my benefits cut off. I had long-term disability. I'm just sharing with you how it was not an easy transition. I ended up getting 10% for my back, which is still an issue. I lived $123 a month for a year. So you're looking at a woman that is not self-made. This is God-made. It's God. God did this. He restored me. He restored me. But I choose to be restored, and I deserve being restored. So as women veterans, it's very important, no matter what stage you are, and I'm just kind of shedding tears because it's real. I was depressed, suicidal. The only reason I didn't commit suicide because I had a son, and I thought about him and said, what are we going to do? I don't have anybody to take care of him. So it's very important when you reach back out, you say, you deserve that. I deserved it. I demanded help. And they finally put me in a HUD-VASH program, and I lived in that for 2 years. And I didn't like people. I didn't want anybody near me because everybody hurt me. But I believe the reason why that happened is because you attract what you are. I was broken. I was jacked up. And I was able to tell myself the truth. I don't like me. You know, instead of people telling me, I just started telling myself. And I changed that. I really started to love myself. You have to first love yourself. It's not selfish, it's self-preservation. If you don't have you, you don't have nothing. If you're not standing on your own 2 feet, you can't help nobody. So I took 3 to 4 years and really started doing therapy. I went to prolonged exposure therapy, and it was the most painful thing because everything I've avoided, I ran from, I had to face it. I had to face all those, I would say, skeletons and all these voices and all this darkness that I had that was a part of my past. And then I started living for my soul. I said, never again would I live in a place where they just put me here and say, this is all you can get. I said, oh, no, this is the start. I can make this. I can make $1 out of 15 cents. I can sure do that. And I learned how to make these things happen. I took what I had. I went to the food banks. You talking about humble. I was a social worker. I sent people there. I helped people. Then I had to receive help. That was the strongest thing I ever did was receive help. I asked again, and I tried. So it's very important, loving yourself, keeping your ego on a short length. You know, it's nothing about being me, 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 me. It's about we. It's about we, supporting each other, giving each other help and strength. And I think that's what's very important about women veterans, what we have together. And I learned this too. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You want to change your circle, change you. And that's what happened to me in Michigan. I really started this, and I was dealing with one woman veteran. She's very negative, and I'd be like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. And it was very difficult because I got out of that place. And then I got with one, she was very toxic. And I was with her for a season, but I had said, you know, I need to move on because after 6 months, if we're not growing, me and you, working together to help women veterans, how can we really achieve anything? So I shifted it. I have attracted a lot of women veterans that are powerful. I'm just saying in this room, I don't know you personally, but we have a unique experience. I mean, we made it through basic training, AIT, no matter what your branch is, you came back and you served, even if you're reserved. You know, I don't put any weekend warriors down at all. I think what's important, all of us that we serve, we make up 1%, almost 1% of the whole United States population. That's very small. And so we have to celebrate ourselves and embrace that truth of how powerful our experiences are. I was a leader, and then I kept getting rejected because I was a leader. I was strong, but I kept getting rejected because I was strong. I was like, oh my goodness, well, I'm supposed to go back to that weak, feeble state? But I refused to do that, so I redefined my life. And it's very important that we be kind to other people. You never know what a person is going through. If I would have had during my struggle with one person just listen. You didn't have to just be an ear and listen. I didn't have a non-judgmental ear. That's very important because people have a tendency to judge you automatically. They look at you, they hear a little thing about you, and that's over. We have to be kind to people because you never know what's going on. I had a friend share with you that I lost with suicide. And very close, very dear to my heart, helped me out a lot. And when that happened, I vowed never again to let somebody on my watch to lose somebody like that. That was very hard to lose someone like that when you're close to him. And he used to pray, I'd stay out of time, pray for me, just pray for me. And I was like, okay, I didn't think nothing of it. They ended up committing suicide. And so that's kind of one of my fuels is that being kind to people when someone asks you to do something, do it all your might. Be beautiful. You are a woman veteran, you served in the military, and you are special. You're unique, your history. Regardless of what branch, regardless if you got an award or not, if you got a plaque or anything, you have to embrace that beauty and that experience within you. This is where I'm at today. That's why I wrote my story. I wrote it for myself and for my son, to hopefully get my son to understand me. I apologized to him. I said, I am so sorry that I didn't take care of myself sooner. I was not the best mom. I was a good mom, but I wasn't the healthiest. You know, always doing everything and taking care of everybody else. So I started writing my story, and it took a while. And it came to this point when you write the story, no one holds the pen but you. Because I always ask everybody, well, I really don't know what I'm doing. You know, but I'm just going to write. I didn't even know it was going to make sense or come out together or not. But after I started writing it, expressing myself, then the team came. You know, I had people to help me, book coaches, media specialists. People just showed up because it became significant. So now I'm to this point, what doesn't kill me, I better start running. Okay? I changed it. When you're in a fight, hey, you better kill me, you better start running. And I mean life, you know, and that's what I learned about relationships and people and whatever. You know, what you have to do is that you know your place of strength. And then I became this person that was standing back on her feet again. I was no longer that woman that was broken after I shared my story. So this is me. You guys are really touching me. I battled my storm within, and I won, so can you. So as a woman veteran, I want to share this with you. We have some special. In Michigan, we have over 46,000 women veterans. We never had a women veterans conference before, ever. So we're putting on the first women veterans conference in November. November 19th. And it's free, so registration is open, so my table's out there. And what we're going to do is a platform. It's called the Voice of the Women Veterans, the prisms, platforms, and potentials of women veterans. We need to tell them who we are. You know, we need to educate the public and people and our family members about ourselves. We're going to have panel discussions. I have senators and judges and all kinds of people. I got it on the website, really not a name caller. But we have a panel discussion of political people. Then we're going to have panel discussions of VSOs, Veteran Services Organizations, because a lot of times there's no dialogue. There's no communication. We're going to have a panel discussion of women veterans. In Michigan, not a lot of women, my sister veterans have been honored, and there's some rock stars, but they're in the trenches just like me, but I believe in honoring and empowering each other. And we're going to have a healing panel, and we're going to have great entertainment. So it's going to be a one-day event, first time. Been working on it last year, since June, with my sister veterans, so I'm excited. Things are starting to roll forward with that. And finally, after being out advocating so long, speaking to so many women veterans, men too, there's a lot of MST survivors are men. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the stories these guys share with me, but just being out, hearing their stories, I decided to do a book project for women veterans, and it's free, for real. You can share your voice here. It's called Our Voices United. It's a United States Women Veteran Book Project. And what we're doing is giving you an opportunity to write a 2-page story, 12.8 to 1,000 words about your military experience, how it has shaped you and impacted your life and where you are today. They need to know this. I'm hearing this all the time everywhere I go. Where are you guys? Why do you hide? You know, what's up? What happened? It's time for us to speak. They want to hear from us. I don't know if you see more in the media now. In the last year or two, women veteran stories are sharing and voices are coming out. All of our voices are important. So this book project over here will be released in November. You can get the information off my website too, but I would love to hear your stories. If you have a beautiful poem or whatever you want to share is very important. So there's an opportunity for everyone in this room, and I want to thank you for allowing me to share my story today. It's truly an honor. God bless.
Battling storms. All right. Okay. We're not done yet. We're not done. All right. So, if you served in the United States Army, please stand. That's okay. You can do your ooh-ah, or your... You could be seated.
Good morning. My name is Severine Banks, and as Melissa introduced me earlier, I'm the Sacramento chapter director, and I retired last year, 20 years and 7 days, okay? So Melissa asked us just to put slides together by service, and what really stuck out to me was the statistics. So I did a statistics slides, and then I did like a fact slide. I have a video, but we're cutting down on time, so we won't do the video. Okay, thank you. So 214,000 women now serve in the military, account for about 14.5% of the force. There's 9,000 female troops that have earned the combat action badges during modern combat operations. For those of you who don't know what a combat action badge, you have to be engaged by the enemy in order to receive a combat action badge. So that's a lot of combat action badges, 9,000. As of April 2015, 161 women have lost their lives and 1,015 had been wounded in action post 9/11. There's 89 women that have been killed in the line of duty in Iraq and 36 in Afghanistan in the Army alone. 437 women earned awards for valor to include 2 Silver Stars, 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 31 Air Medals, and 16 Bronze Stars, and that's just for valor. So to me, those numbers are impressive. That's why I bolded them. It was very interesting to do the research on that. So Army Women First. In 1953, the first woman physician is commissioned as a medical officer in the regular Army. Vietnam War era, 1965 to 75, an Army nurse is the only U.S. military woman to die from enemy fire in Vietnam. In 1970, the first women in the history of the armed forces, the chief of the Army Nurse Corps and the Women's Army Corps director, are promoted to brigadier general. In 1972, the ROTC is opened to Army women. In 1974, an Army woman becomes the first woman military helicopter pilot. In 1975, DoD reverses policies and provides pregnant women with the option of electing discharge or remaining on active duty. To me, that was very significant. I'm a mom and I served in the military being a mom, and to think that back then you couldn't serve if you had children. And that's 1975. I was born in 76, so that's just 40 years ago. Previous policies required women be discharged upon pregnancy or the adoption of children. In 1976, women are admitted to the service academies, and in 1978, the Army woman is promoted to two-star general. She is also the first woman officer to command a major military installation. In 1979, an Army Nurse Corps officer becomes the first African-American woman brigadier general in the history of the armed forces. In 1980, the first women graduate from the service academies. In 1989, 770 women deployed to Panama in Operation Just Cause. 2 women command Army companies in the operation, and 3 women Army pilots are nominated for Air Medals. 2 receive the Air Medal with V device for participation in a combat mission. 1989, the first time in history, the U.S. Military Academy, West Point, names a woman as its brigade commander and first captain. 1989, NASA selects its first Army woman as an astronaut. 1990 to 91, 2 Army women are taken prisoner by the Iraqis. 1993, the Army names a woman Drill Sergeant of the Year for the first time in the 24-year history of this competition. In 1993, the Army assigned its first woman combat pilot. 1996, the first woman commands the Army's Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. 97, the Army promotes its first woman to Lieutenant General. 97 again, the Army assigns the first woman and the first non-doctor to command an Army hospital. 2000, the Army National Guard promotes the first woman to Major General. 01, the Army promotes the first woman to Brigadier General in the Judge Advocate General's Corps. She is also the first Asian Pacific American woman promoted to Brigadier General. 02, the first time in its history, the Army National Guard promotes an African American woman to the rank of Brigadier General. 2002, the first time in U.S. history, a woman becomes the top enlisted advisor in any of the military components. She is sworn in as the Command Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army Reserve. 2003, the first Native American servicewoman is killed in battle. She was one of 3 women who were taken prisoners of war during the first days of the war in Iraq. 2008, for the first time in U.S. military history, a woman is promoted to the rank of 4-star general. She is promoted by the U.S. Army. This is a picture. I was the first sergeant for the female engagement team company. I was the only one in the Army. We deployed to Afghanistan 2 years ago. And this woman right here, we talk about 22 suicides a day. She was my commander, and she killed herself when we came back. So I put this picture up here. These were my soldiers, but for Kelly Hasselman. So she was my commander, and we came back, and 6 months later, she committed suicide. And we don't have time for the video, so to all my Army sisters, hoa.
Thank you, Severine. So we have a thing with Severine. It's there was a post that on Facebook, and Severine, it was posted that she retired after 20 years, and so she was challenged by a woman that how could she retire? Because, right, we don't think that women are young, beautiful, that can retire after 20 years of service. And she said, did she do 20 years? Yes. So it's a funny back and forth, but we always talk about it because, yes, Sabrina's retired from the military. So, yes. And all of you, too, when you introduce yourselves, you should be proud. I mean, especially if you're retired, introduce yourself. Put that on your email address line, your business cards. I mean, just put you're a veteran on your business cards, on your email signature. Right? Be proud. And we'll talk about some other stuff, how you can be proud. We have a couple other giveaways. All right, let's see. Coast Guard. All right.
Yeah, 2.
Yes, I'm Ute Kavanaugh, and when Melissa asked about presentations for this, I thought, oh boy, how many do I know in this group that are Coast Guard? One. So I better volunteer for this one. Yeah, so there's my friend Laura, a couple of us here, and I'm reserve 11 years, just re-enlisted recently, and was activated twice, once to beautiful Guantanamo, and then to even more beautiful Kuwait. That's me, my gunboat, and my Kuwaiti version of the frappe, water, milk, coffee powder, shake it up. So yeah, coasties were kind of a unicorn. They're female especially. There's 0.5% of the population of the US is currently in the military actively, and about 0.5% of that are female coasties. There's about 7,000 of us, so there's not very, very many. So I want to briefly talk about the Coast Guard, since we're such a unique service. We're part of the Department of Homeland Security. I don't know how many of you knew that we're even a military service. I get that a lot of times. Coast Guard? Yeah, you know, yeah. Are you military? We're small. We're about 43,000 total. It's about the size of the New York City Police Department. It all started in the beginning, New Republic, what do you need? Money. So first version of the IRS on the water or something, the Revenue Cutter Service. Helen said we need a system of cutters, we need to collect some money here, make sure we collect trade money. And so 4th of August, 1790, birth of the Coast Guard. And we're military, maritime, and multi-mission. Maritime, obviously, Coast Guard. And there'll be tests on this later. No, just kidding. And just to give you an idea of how much we do anything from ice operations, search and rescue, defense, search and readiness, drug interdiction, a lot of different missions. And at always 43,000 people. Military. We've been involved in pretty much every war since the beginning of the US. There's Douglas Munro in World War II, Medal of Honor recipient, protecting the Marines, getting them off Guadalcanal. Regisher, he flew Coast Guard rescue missions for downed pilots during the Vietnam War. There's our little gunboats in the first Gulf War, port security units. And then DC-3 Nathan Bruckenthalь got killed in action in the second Gulf War in the port security unit, together with a couple of Navy that were boarding a boat and it got blown up. So, and it kind of reflects too, I mean, I've been deployed, worked with just about every single service that's here during my deployments and time at the Coast Guard. Multi-mission, we have our big ships, the cutters out there, doing anything from rescuing fishermen to drug interdiction, small boats, law enforcement, search and rescue. That's the helicopters from Katrina. Then we got Haiti down there, port security unit helping out. And then the grainy, really bad picture of the C-130, it's here from Air Station. I have it on my phone. We flew out on the training field exercise, and that airplane flew our unit down to San Clemente. And sometime later, that airplane collided with a Marine helicopter. I don't know if you heard about that a couple of years ago, and they all perished. So, during a search and rescue mission. And that's, yeah, I hung on to the picture. It's like, oh gosh, I got a picture of them. Women in the Coast Guard. We've been involved ever since the very beginning. You see everything from a little lady in the rowboat there, way back when, through the aviators. It all started with the lighthouse keepers. In the beginning, there were simply women who were taking over the lighthouse, taking care of their husband's duty while they were out. But starting in 1830, we had women assigned to lighthouses. And the most kick-ass of them was Ida Lewis. Her first rescuing alive was when she was 16. I mean, I'm worried about the math test the next day, and there she is rescuing somebody. And she was called the bravest woman in the United States, was active for most like 1850 to 1911, and got several medals, and was a real trailblazer role model. And she's just one of a few. World War I came around, and we had the two sisters here, the Yeomanettes, first woman in uniform in the Coast Guard. Then World War II, the Spars. There were the wax and the waves, and then it's for a motto, it's semper paratus, always ready, spars. And if you want to ask me later, I've got a real funny story from a friend of mine. Are you a spar? There were 12,000 women in the Coast Guard in World War II who signed up for the spars. We had spars at the academy. It's an old picture. It was separate. It was a corps. It wasn't part of really the Coast Guard fully integrated, but academy. And then there's Olivia Hooker. She was a spar, and she was the first African-American woman. She tried to apply for the waves and got rejected because of her ethnicity. And then the Coast Guard accepted her, and she went on to after the war, to a long distinguished career as a university professor. And then Edith Munro. I didn't know that until I looked up the slides and put this together. She's the mother of Douglas Munro, who was killed in action, Medal of Honor recipient. After he was killed, she joined the SPARS, the Coast Guard, and was in the Coast Guard for a while. So as a mother of a son, that really touched me. And then the 70s rolled around. Now things got really great, because 73, by law of Congress, now women were allowed fully integrated in the military, and we had the first women go into boot camp, and we had integrated mixed boot camp. We started having mixed gender boat crews out there. We started having women in command. That all came about mid to end of 70s. We have Patricia Stahl here. She was the first command master chief in E9. She also was the first chief on one of the cutters on the boats that we have out there. So it's kind of a unique situation. When you got a whole boat out there, it used to be bad luck if a woman is anywhere on the ocean on a boat. And there she is, first chief out there. I was a candidate school. When you become an officer and you're not going through the academy, so we had women in there. That's the first class of 73. And then here's the academy, Coast Guard Academy. And it started in the end of the 70s, and here's a picture of the class of 1980. So the whole number of, everything kind of opened up in the 70s. There's a whole number of firsts here, first there. We got academy graduates. Flag rank here, Sandra Stoss. She was our top boss is the commandant, and then below that you have the vice commandant, and she was vice commandant. She was the second woman to be second in command of a military service. I couldn't find the other lady, but it's pretty impressive to be second command of a military service. And then Holly Harrison, she's awesome. She was the first woman in command of a ship during wartime, the second Gulf War. And she received a Bronze Star for her actions there. And then in the 1990s, they did a survey on women in the Coast Guard, and they went ahead and did a whole number of integrations, whole number of programs to make sure we're integrated, we have what we need, we can serve in all the roles. Everything was pretty much open. There's a picture here, a gunner's mate. We had in the first Gulf War, we had a gunner's mate there manning her 240, or it might have been an older one, 250. 50 cal actually, 50 cal, my favorite gun. We had flag rank, senior enlisted, afloat commands, women in charge of our big cutters, our big boats out there. So a whole bunch of things rolling down in the 90s. Aviation, a lot of first women that was actually Jana Lambine, that was already in 76 when she was the first in aviation. Rescue swimmers, the guys who, I don't know if you've seen the Kevin Costner movie, yeah. So female rescue swimmers. We also have a female chief there now who's a rescue swimmer. And then pioneers like Sally Bryce O'Hara, who was actually commanded the Coast Guard Academy for a while.